Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by OutdoorTVExperts.com. Everyone is spending more time at home these days, so wouldn't it be nice to watch a game, a movie, or even better, a concert while sitting on your patio or relaxing in your pool? Visit OutdoorTVExperts.com and use the Music Night discount to receive free shipping. OutdoorTVExperts.com, OutdoorTVExperts.com. Okay, Michael, my part is done. Whether the rest of the show is any good is entirely up to you.
All right, it's time once again for Music Night at the Majestic. And tonight, our guest is T. Graham Brown. T, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you. You know, I got a friend here in Nashville named Bubba Boswell.
Uh-oh.
He owns a Harley place. He's a good guy. So
You know,
you got a long lost cousin down here that's really a nice guy.
well, you know what? I've actually got a bunch of family out in Franklin County. And, whenever they come up, they'll always stop there, pick me up a shirt so I can walk
Really?
around with. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you know where I'm talking about.
I know exactly. Been there many times.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, good deal. So, well, tell you what, before we get into you getting into Nashville and on the Capitol deal and all that, give the folks a little bit of background on yourself and how you developed such a unique, soulful sound.
Wow. That's a big question. Well, I started out, I was a kid down in South Georgia. We have a farm in North Georgia, but my father worked his way through the University of Georgia, and his first job was selling corn seed in South Georgia. He got a little territory, worked for a company, and you might know him there in Illinois, DeKalb Seed Corn Company. And
oh yeah,
so he dealt with farmers, and he moved us to this little bitty 300 population town, and that's where I grew up, riding my bicycle around. I had a transistor radio, and I listened to this little station called WMJM, and it was 10 miles away. It was a 5,000 AM, it was 5,000 watt AM station, and they kind of were like your show. They were totally unformatted. They might play a Johnny Cash song and then play an Otis Redding song and then Jerry Lee Lewis and then the Beatles and then the Stones, and it was just all over the place. And so I listened to that. So I heard a little bit of everything. And I grew up, it was 70 miles south of Macon. So Otis Redding was from Macon. So I heard a lot about Otis Redding. And I would have probably been, I don't know, 12, 11, 13, something like that. And I just always liked it. I played baseball and I carried my transistor radio around. And then at night I'd get into bed and I would scroll through the dial really slowly and pick up those clear channel stations. Like there was one called WOWO in Fort Wayne, and there was WLAC out of Nashville. There was WSM, and so I got to at night. I would, when I should have been sleeping, and my folks would really get on to me about it, but I'd get up under the covers, and I had this little speaker that would fit in one ear. It was little mono, so I would listen, and I was so fascinated. It was kind of like I'd use my imagination to get out of that little town. I could dream what it was like. It was just like a big world out there. It was so, I have such fond memories of that. And our house backed up to the railroad tracks. And back then, this would have been, I was born in 54, so this would have been like between 1960 and 1968, something like, or 69, something like that. That's the era that I grew up in. And we didn't have an air conditioner, and I would open up the windows at the screen windows. Our house backed up to the railroad tracks. On one side's where all the white people lived. On the other side's where all the black people lived. So the the first band that I ever heard, I mean a band, was the Black Church. I could lay down at the foot of the bed, raise my window up, and could hear the Black Church band just as clear as a bell. And so that's really in our little white church, we had a little old lady playing the piano, and we sang, you know, traditional hymns. Black Church was rocking. And so that was the first band I ever heard. So I kind of got a little bit of everything kind of jumbled up. And then my father moved us back to Athens, Georgia, where the University of Georgia is. I finished high school in Athens, and then I enrolled at the University of Georgia. And I was trying to play baseball, but I wasn't getting to play. So I had a friend that worked from high school that worked at the Holiday Inn there. And he said, man, there's a bar upstairs that I had a friend from high school. You remember when somebody's mama and daddy would go out of town for the weekend? Everybody would go over to their house and have a big party and then clean up the house really well so the parents would never know there was a party there. And we would bring we'd bring beer over there, and we would had all our little high school gang. And I had a friend that knew how to play the guitar, so we would sit around and sing songs to our friends. And my buddy went to work at the Holiday Inn, and I was probably a sophomore at the University of Georgia. I think I was a sophomore. This would have been 1973 in September of 73, right when school was starting. And he told me that he knew the bar manager and that maybe we could get an audition over there. Well, we didn't know what an audition was. I had no idea. I knew nothing about nothing. And neither did the guy that was playing guitar with me. I mean, we didn't have a clue of what to do. So the bar manager said, okay, tell him to come over here. And we were so backward that I borrowed a little amp from a friend of mine to be the PA. This guy's mom and dad had do you remember what those old console stereos were like a big piece of furniture? We actually loaded up his mom and daddy's console stereo and took it to the Holiday Inn and ran 2 wires from the speakers in that console stereo to the back of that amp. In other words, we were just so, I don't know. It just showed how little we knew about it.
You were a little green at the music business.
We rolled, imagine seeing 2 guys rolling in a console stereo and an amp. I mean, it was just, it had to have been the stupidest looking thing in the world. Anyway, we sang about 3 songs. The guy said, I'll hire you. So he said, I can pay you $150 a week if you'll sing from Tuesday to Saturday from 9 till midnight. And of course we took it, but we didn't know any songs. We didn't know anything. So we went and learned some songs, and we started playing, and the students started coming a little by little, the college students. We were playing back then what's called beach music. The Tams, the Drifters, the Coasters, the Platters, stuff that they would shag to in the Carolinas. Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs, Major Lance, Swinging Medallions, all these, a lot of Southern bands. Anyway, we developed a huge student following at the University of Georgia. It was really fun. It was like a big student party every night. And we would sing at night and get up in the morning and go to class. And then it was just, that's the way we did it. And we paid our tuition we kind of sang our way through college. And then one day, during that time, I bought a house in Athens. And so a couple of friends of mine and I moved in this little house I'd bought. And I came, and I was at the time, I had short hair, I wore khaki pants, I wore 100% cotton button-down shirts. I was a preppy. I was a preppy. And I came home one day, and I turned the TV on, and it was on the PBS station, and there was David Allan Coe. They were doing a documentary on David Allan Coe. I was just transfixed, man. I could not believe this guy. I thought, who is this? And I watched it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be that guy. So I quit with my partner. I tried to get my partner to form a country rock band, and he didn't want to do it. And I just kind of dropped out of society and put together kind of a wild, woolly Hank Jr. kind of country rock band. And I did that for 3 years. And then Urban Cowboy came out, and then everybody and his brother put together a country rock band. And I thought, well, golly, everybody's doing what I was doing. Didn't want to be like everybody else. So then I put a straight soul band together, just a Motown, Stax, Muscle Shoals, kind of just straight soul, not beach music, but Southern soul music. And I did that for 3 years. And all this time, Sheila, my wife, we've been together for 42 years. And so we were living on the farm about 20 miles outside of Athens, and she came. We were laying in the bed. This is great. We were laying in the bed listening to the radio at night, which we would do. We had no cable TV. We had an over-the-air antenna. And we were so far out in the country, we couldn't really pick up any TV station. So we listened to the radio. And I told Lee Greenwood this the other day. Ring on Her Finger and Time on Her Hands came on the radio. And I thought, man, because he was raspy voice like I am. He was kind of soulful like I fancied myself being. And I really thought, boy, wouldn't it be nice to move to Nashville? But I was so scared. And Sheila came home. She finished her master's work up and came home. She said, we're moving to Nashville. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, if we don't go, you're going to second guess yourself the rest of your life. So she's the one that really put it all together, because like I said, I had my little comfort zone down there. I was, I guess a decent sized fish in a little pond. And so we moved to Nashville and just started over. We didn't know anybody. So that was in spring of '82. And I just kind of figured out I would go anytime anybody would even listen to me. I'd tell them how great I was.
Well, when you got to Nashville, if I remember right, you were saying that you wound up doing a lot of vocals for jingles, for ad jingles.
Well, I started off. We moved there in May, I think, or moved here in May, and I finagled a writing deal with a company called CBS Songs. It's now EMI. And I think now even Sony's taking it over. But back then it was called CBS Songs. It was a major publishing company. And so it didn't take me but a little over 6 months to kind of get plugged into the writing part of it. I don't consider myself any great writer or anything, but it helped. It kind of gave me some legitimacy to be able to say, hey, I'm a writer at CBS Songs. People kind of paid more attention. It was a little more official than, just saying, hey, I'm Tony Brown. And that's what I went by back then. And so I started singing demos, songwriter demos. And I kind of got a little more popular and a little more popular as a demo singer. I was quick in the studio. I could sing kind of any style they wanted. And I remember Vince Gill was doing the same thing about that time. He had moved to Nashville and kind of started over too. And when you're singing demos, you sing a songwriter will write a song, you go in and they'll demo the song, and you'll put your vocal on it, and then the publishing company will pitch it around Music Row to try to get it recorded, play it for various producers and artists. Well, anyway, my voice got passed around town. And that's when people started saying, the song's okay, but who's this guy singing? So that's kind of the way I got known. And from there, I can't remember what the first jingle I did was, but somebody had heard my raspy voice and wanted a raspy voice. So I did it, and it was successful, and it just led to others and others and others and others. And so I got to where I was the go-to guy for jingles. I just talked to a guy named Dan Williams. You know Ken Burns, the
Yeah.
documentarian? He's doing a thing on Nashville's hidden jingle business.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be in it. I was talking to one of my main jingle guys, and he's kept all of that stuff. He said, you wouldn't believe how many jingles you did. Because I've totally forgot. He said, you were like the guy. So apparently in the jingle world, I might have been as big as you could get, because I did as many jingles as probably anybody in history, really. And
Well, we've got some of them running, yeah, the different companies that you've done jingles for run across the bottom of the screen. So, we've got McDonald's, Disneyland, Budweiser, Coors, Stroh's, Almond Joy, Coca-Cola, Sears, Dodge, Trucks, Ford, Hardee's, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think you got it covered. If you got trucks and fried chicken, I think you're good.
all of that, man, and Dr. Pepper, 7-Up, Mountain Dew, just it goes on and on. A lot of major national things. So it was good, and it was it helped me pay the bills, and it was a lot of fun too. It's easy for me. That kind of stuff's just easy for me to do. It's like so easy.
Don't tell people that. They won't want to pay you as much.
Well, I kind of feel guilty about how easy for me it is. I've just always been pretty good in the studio as far as not wasting people's money.
Yeah.
They always liked that I could get things done pretty fast, so they wouldn't have to pay the engineer or the studio any extra money. So, but I had a blast, man. I really did. And a guy that worked for Tree International Publishing, and was at the time the largest independent music publisher in the world, and mainly country songs. I did a lot of demos over there for them, and the guy that produced a lot of their demos got a job at Capitol Records. Capitol restructured everything, and they hired a whole new staff, and he was one of the ones, and he was instrumental in he talked me up big, and I was actually the first person they signed the new regime. So it was really fun. Back then, I was talking to, there's a guy out now named Michael Ray, and he's having some hits, and he's a pretty big star these days. And I don't really keep up with what's going on anymore. I'm so out of the loop. But I did a Facebook thing with Michael Ray the other day, and I didn't realize, that he was a big star. And he had me on because the 80s and 90s country is apparently coming back, and we're getting popular again, especially with the young crowd and all that. So, dang, I forgot what I was going to tell you, Michael. So I got a thing called a singles deal. They don't, these days, I was telling Michael Ray, I don't know if these days it's harder to quote unquote make it as it was in my day. I don't know. It seems like it was way simpler in the mid 80s or early 80s. There was no social media and all this. It just seems like it was simpler, but I don't know if that is true or not. But I had this thing called a singles deal back then. They would, not an album deal. There was such a thing as an album deal, but they would sign an artist to a singles deal. I guess that they didn't really believe in as much. And they would put out, I had a 6 singles deal, meaning Capitol Records would release a single. If it didn't hit, they had the option to release a second single, and so on and so on. It was back in the days when there was actually artist development, is what they called it. And there's really no such thing anymore, but that was what it was called back then, artist development. So they put out a single on me, and it went to number 39, which was enough for them to call for an album. So I went in the studio in Nashville in Woodland Sound, and I cut a song called I Tell It Like It Used to Be, to be the second single, and that kind of bought me some time to go down to Muscle Shoals and finish the album. So we were down Muscle Shoals recording while I Tell It Like It Used to Be was going up the charts, but there still wasn't an album for people to buy. So anyway, we got it. We kind of rushed it up and we got it out. And then they put out another single, and it was a bigger hit than I Tell It Like It Used to Be was. And then they put out another one. It was a #1. So we were on our way as far as me having hits. And it was fun. It was really hectic back then. And they put me on tour with Kenny Rogers. And I don't know, I've probably done over 300 shows with Kenny Rogers. So I was out there. I knew Kenny very, very well. And he was really sweet to me. And we played every major arena in North America. They threw me in there, man, into the big, big venues. So, I mean, I came from the last time I had sung was doing a showcase at the Bluebird Cafe, and then those little honky tonks down in Athens, Georgia, and bam, all of a sudden I was in a 20,000 seat place. So I kind of had to make it up as I went. But
well, tell me this, T. When you think back to those days of, you got the deal, and all of a sudden now you're out, like you say, you've gone from honky tonks to now you're in arenas playing with Kenny. What's some of the things that you come to mind most when you think about those days?
They were all sold out. Everywhere we went was sold out. It was a big time deal, big time production. It was state of the art for back then. I mean, it was huge. The stage, he always had a stage in the round in the middle of where the basketball court would be, or if it was a hockey arena, whatever. And he always carried a gourmet chef with him, and he let us eat with them. He would open his closet up to me and tell me to go pick stuff out that I could have. He had a couple of semi, tractor trailer trucks, and one of them was like his closet.
Oh, wow.
He had tons of clothes and expensive stuff, really, expensive stuff. He had a big jet, not like a Lear jet, but like you would go, like a regular airline.
Like a 737.
It's something big like that.
Yeah.
And it, everything was gold plated. I mean, literally. And he would go home every night down to, it was funny because he had a farm about 11 miles from my mom and daddy's farm. So sometimes he would ask me if I wanted to go home. He'd say, I'm going to Athens tonight. Do you want to go with me? And I would go, and they would land at the Athens airport, and my folks would come and pick me up, and I'd, spend the night or whatever with them, and then come back to the airport and fly back to Maine or wherever it was. And he had a couple of jet cars. This guy knew how to live. I'm gonna tell you.
I'm picking up on that.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, he was like the biggest star on the planet. I mean, really, he was one of the it was a big tour, and that was just a lot of fun. And I put this band together, and we were all just rookies. And all of a sudden we were thrown in there, and we did a good job. I mean, I remember the first couple of shows, I was terrified, but I just kind of plowed on through. I didn't let it shake me up too much.
I was going to ask you if you remember that the first show where all of a sudden you got to walk out there to this whole arena that's waiting for Kenny, and you've got to win these people over in a huge arena that you're not used to. What was that like?
Scary, but it was exhilarating too. Man, back then, and I still do, I was so confident in myself. I was like, it seemed like I was willing all this stuff to happen and to succeed. I don't know, maybe I was kind of scared a little bit, but I had drive. I had a lot of drive. I guess that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I was not going to be defeated. And that's kind of the way I looked at things. It's like, hey, man, this is my shot, and I'm not going to be scared about it. I'm gonna just jump on in there like I know what I'm doing. So apparently I knew enough about what I was doing to fool people.
Well, tell me this, kind of jump back for a bit. We were talking about all the demos. When you were singing those, where were you in your mind thinking, I want to knock this one out so that people take notice of me?
Yeah, oh yeah, that was always the way I thought. I wanted to do just the best job in town. I wanted to be the guy, and I got to where people really would come to me and want me to sing because they were having success pitching these songs and getting these songs cut. And a lot of times the publisher would say, "Hey man, we you were a big part of us getting this song cut." So I made a lot of people a lot of money, that in that way.
Do
And
you remember some of the demos that you cut that became hits for other people?
gosh, not no, not really.
I mean, 'cause there's probably so many of them that it was just
Well,
just a
I do
blur.
I do remember one that, and the reason I remember it is two guys I went to high school with in Athens, Georgia, had come to Nashville um, years before I did, and they wrote this song called 1962 and had me sing it. And they pitched it. This was right when we were just Randy Travis and I came up at the same time. I never was a big star like him. I mean, he was huge, but they played him this demo we'd done called 1962, and he changed, or his management changed the name of it to 1982, and he put it out, and that was his first big hit.
Mhm.
So that kind of got him going. I remember Randy put out a song called what was about it? It was about a ring.
On the other hand,
Huh?
on the other hand,
On the other hand, yeah, yeah. So they put out On the Other Hand. He was on Warner Brothers. We were kind of competing. I wanted to do better than him. He wanted to do better than me. We never were mad at each other or anything like that. It was a hell.
friendly rivalry.
Yes, yes. So I think it was Paul Overstreet wrote that song.
Yes.
On the Other Hand. So they put out On the Other Hand, and it was a flop. I mean, it stopped in the 70s, something like that. And my little first single went to 39. So I kind of got bragging rights for a few months anyway. So they put out 1962 or 1982 for Randy. It was a big hit. And then they re-released On the Other Hand, and it was just a huge smash. So it was funny. That doesn't happen. I mean,
Oh no.
put out a single, it flopped, do another one, and then put the flop back out, and it'd be a hit. So that's what really got Randy off. And I was on Capitol, and Capitol was like back then there were 6 major labels on Music Row, and Capitol was like the redheaded stepchild, or the little. I mean, Capitol's a huge label, but in Nashville,
It was the underdog.
yeah, very much so. Very much so. Warner Brothers was big, RCA, MCA. I can't remember who all else, but Capitol was like the little ship that could, or whatever, the little engine.
Yeah.
So Tanya Tucker and I were on that label, and we were their biggest acts. I was the guy, and Tanya was the girl. I mean, everybody else was under us, if you want to put it that way. They put most of their money into us, and we were having the biggest hits. Well, I was doing great, and then Garth came along. Capitol signed Garth, and Garth blew by me so fast that my head was spinning. So all of a sudden, I was kind of not on the top. I wasn't their top male artist anymore. So that kind of made me, humble up some. But who would have known what Garth would have turned into?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, you mentioned coming in at the same time as Randy. And you guys came in a very pivotal point in country music history because the mid 80s is when was a turning point, especially 80, 85, 86, 87. And yeah, because that's when after years of the urban and cowboy sound records that sounded, very they were as much adult contemporary records as what they were country, maybe more so actually. Then you guys came in and there was you two, Dwight Yoakam, Steve Earle, Keith Whitley, all you guys,
Yep.
and total opposite of what had been out, and it was such a breath of fresh air. And tell us about that. But did you feel the movement that you kind of became, if you will?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it dawned on us as much then as it did a little bit later at the beginning of it. I came across this picture of it's Marty Stewart, Keith Whitley. We're all standing together. Keith Whitley with a cigarette in his hand, which he always was smoking, always. He's the only guy that I ever saw that would smoke while he ate. He'd take a bite of food, chew it up, swallow it, take a drag off a cigarette, blow it out, and do that. I mean, I've never, to this day, never seen anybody else that smoked while he ate. Um, but I got this picture. We were all up for new male vocalist of the year at the ACM Awards out in California, and they had taken us to Knott's Berry Farm to do a little photo shoot. And it's Marty, Keith Whitley, Randy Travis, a guy named Billy Burnett. I don't know if you remember Billy.
Actually, we had Billy on the radio version of the show. Billy's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. And me, there were five of us. And it seems like maybe the next year, I can't remember if Yoakum was that year. Anyway, that year, like you said, was Yoakum. The first show, once I had a hit, the very first time I ever went west of the Mississippi River, I went to Gilley's Rodeo Arena to open up for Loretta Lynn. And Dwight was the opening act. I was the middle act, and I'd never met Dwight. So I went to their dressing room and kind of palled around with them. So Dwight and I are friends ever since then. I ran into Steve Earle at the Opry the other night, backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and we were talking. And he had the best saying back then, or a quote that he made was, all of us, when we came out, he called it the great credibility scare of 1986. That was a good way to put it. I guess what people were looking at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Steve saw it more clearly than I did about it being a kind of a changing of the guard, so to speak, But it was fun, man, and there were we had a lot of fun. There were a lot of cool artists back then, and Keith and I we were like brothers. We worked on the road together. We had just been. He had a manager named Jack McFadden, and Jack went on to manage Billy Ray. I can't remember who all Jack managed back in the day. He was an old school manager, and we talked a lot. And I remember he called the house one morning, which was nothing unusual. And I answered the phone, and he said, "Keith's dead." And I said, "Man, that ain't even funny." He said, "No, we found Keith dead, man." And he started crying. I started crying, and it was a bad day. And he said, "Look, I don't want all these news trucks and all want to come to my house, but I can't face them. Can we send them to your house?" So they sent all these news people over to my house, and I wasn't really in any shape to talk. I didn't feel like talking either. But Keith and I were getting ready to go back out that next week. I mean, we were really good buddies. So yeah, all that, we lived through all that drama stuff, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, after I tell it like it used to be, Your next album continued your streak of top 10 hits, Brilliant Conversationalist.
Yeah.
And that single, title track, whatever you want to call it, was such a great record, had such a great sound. Tell us about that song.
Well, we went down to Muscle Shoals again and cut that second album. Um, it was just a song that a friend of mine named Gary Nicholson had written, and he played for me, and I liked, and we just went down and cut it. It was no big thing, you know. We just cut it, and that kind of soulful thing, and then Capitol put it out. I remember that summer we cut Sitting on the Dock of the Bay too. Well, there's a station here in town, and it was WSM actually. WSM FM started playing Sitting on the Dock of the Bay like it was a single, but it wasn't a single. And it was a big hit in Nashville, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, my version of Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, because
Mhm.
that's what people were hearing on the radio in their cars every day. And then there's another station, WSIX, was playing Brilliant Conversationalist. So it was like having two hits at once in Nashville, and we had to choose, and we chose Brilliant Conversationalist to go with around the rest of the country. And sometimes I wish we'd have put out Dock of the Bay. I don't know. That was just kind of a flip of the coin, really. And then Capitol put out Dock of the Bay over in Europe, and it did fairly well. We went over there 5 times it was enough of a hit that we went over there, back over there 5 times to, tour. So, but Brilliant Conversationalist, I just liked it. So I hate that album cover with a passion, but we had some decent hits, but I didn't have a number one. See, and that was another thing. It was like, dang, I was just coming off of 2 number ones on the first album, and then Brilliant Conversationalist, I think it was in the top 10, but it wasn't a number one. And that kind of made me think, oh man, have we done something wrong, And so I was thinking all kinds of stuff back then, I was second guessing things that I shouldn't have been, oh man, should we have put out this, or boy, if we put out this one, is it going to help or hurt? No, I was I don't know. I hate to say I was doubting myself, but I think I really was.
Well, there's a lot of pressure, because once you reach a certain level of success, especially on the charts, there's that pressure to maintain, to outdo.
Yeah. Well, I have had Michael, Sheila just came in here and sat down. I got to say this. Through all my ups and downs and alcohol problems, drug problems, all kinds of up, in, out, up and down, every which way, man, I've been there. I've done it, everything, right and wrong. But, I've had a wonderful career. I don't sit around really and what if, I'm 66 years old. I'll be 66 this month. And I have decided that I've had a wonderful career, and Sheila and I are still together. She stood by me. We've been, like I said, been together 42 years this year. She travels with me everywhere. She takes care of me. She's my best friend. She's got my back. The pressure's off. We're not out chasing a hit, fighting that Billboard chart war. Trying to keep your bullet. Oh, did we keep our bullet this week or lose our bullet? And all of that stuff is attendant to, being in the middle of the fight. I have gotten to work with, I tell people I've gotten to work with, get to know, tour with all the one name people. And they actually like me. I've gotten to tour with Willie and Waylon and Merle and Loretta and Conway and George and Tammy and Kenny and Dolly. I've had a wonderful career, and I'm so thankful to God. My faith is really strong. Every day I get up and I try to do what I think God wants me to do. I can't say I know what God wants, but I do what I think that He wants me to do. I'm really happy. Um, I'm just in a really good place right now, and I think I will be for the rest of my life, hopefully. And it's just been a wonderful ride, and I couldn't be more thankful for what I've been able to do. I've gone around the world. I've done everything. I've been in movies. I've written #1 songs. Like you said, I've sung all those jingles. I've made hit records. I've done, and I'm getting ready to go back down to Muscle Shoals and do another album. And I'm
Well,
still
you've
making.
got one coming out pretty
Yeah,
quick here,
I
don't
went
you?
in.
Yeah, why don't you
Well,
tell us about that?
well, since all this COVID stuff, I just decided to go in the studio and do an acoustic, just me and a guitar and a background vocals of a greatest hits album. Something I should have done a long time ago. And we got that coming out in October. I don't know the exact day, but it's coming out on Time Life. I did a deal with Time Life Warner. It's part of Warner Brothers, and they've released all the albums that we had the rights to on all the streaming platforms, and they're going to put out it's an album, we're calling it Bare Bones because that's what it is, Bare Bones. And they're putting that out, and hopefully I'll be able to get another some more new T. Graham Brown music out after the first of the year. We're all kind of waiting around. We don't know what's going to happen, and nobody does. And we're all shut down. We had a big year book this year. We had the biggest year probably in 10 or 15 years. Like I was saying, that we're kind of coming back. The guys in my era are kind of coming back. So we had a big year booked. People are wanting to come here sing, and it's really cool actually. The resurgence of 80s and 90s, and
Well, good music never goes away completely.
well, I hope not. I hope not. And I'm a big music fan myself, so um, I don't know what's going to happen. No, but like I said, nobody knows. And we're just all itching to get back. We're everybody's going, unless you're a superstar and really wealthy, everybody's going through a trying financial time. Uh, Everybody in every industry, but in the music business, you got the production people, the lights, the sound, the bus drivers, the bus mechanics, the bus
Mm-hmm.
leasing companies, the record companies, public. I mean, writers. It's
It just goes on and on.
on and on, and then you got Lower Broadway here in Nashville. That's a huge place for musicians to make some money, and it's all shut down. And these are guys and girls that are, don't have a big record deal or anything, and they're working for tips, trying to pay their rent. And so Nashville shut down, and it's just really, really been a killer, a soul killer. Thank goodness the Opry's going to crank back up this Saturday, but out of a 4,000 seat place, they're going to only let 500 people in, I think.
Yeah.
So it's just weird, man. That's a good way to put it. It's just weird.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, I just realized that we're way past our 30 minutes here. But
Oh man, am I talking too long?
no, not at all.
Well,
I didn't realize that what time it was.
well, hey Michael, I'm bad about it. Sometimes you can just ask me what time it is, and I'll go off on an hour-long story.
You know what? As long as it's interesting, it's all good. But yeah,
But
well, one thing I do want to talk to you about though is your live wire on Sirius XM.
oh yeah, man. Well, I've been trying to get somebody to do a show where I play live cuts from people's live albums. And I have a friend and manager named Josh Blight that works with Stormy Warren over there at Sirius. Stormy's a disc jockey, MC, all this on the modern country station. I think it's called Y2K. I can't remember what his station's on, but anyway, Josh knew those Sirius people and was able to put together a thing where I could have a show on their prime country channel which is channel 58. And Prime Country that channel plays music from 1980 to 2000. So I got 20 years I can play with in there. So I do a show once a month. I pick the music, I pick the artist. I always have a special guest. This month's Winona. Next month's going to be Tracy Lawrence. I pick people that are in that era. I've had some great guests on. We've been doing it a year and something, and I just signed a new contract with them for another year. So apparently they're liking it. I understand what you were talking about earlier. I don't think the people could see it, but about doing 6 shows, to try to have a little catalog, like to see if it's going to work or not. Well, we've done like a year of them so far, so that was kind of our trial period, I guess you could call it.
Gotcha.
And apparently it's successful enough for them to let us keep doing it, which I'm very thankful for. It's a lot of fun, and we get a lot of listeners, and actually it's brought my profile up a little bit. So it's just been a good thing all the way around. So we got that going on. It's called Livewire. You can go, if you subscribe to Sirius, you can download their Sirius app, and you can listen to it on demand anytime you want to. I think they air it 8 or 10 times a month at different days, different times of the day. So basically, if you subscribe to Sirius, no matter if you're a truck driver or whatever, wherever you're listening, you can usually catch Livewire at one time or another. So anyway, it's like I said, man, we've had a wonderful career, and we're having a great time. And I just wish we were out. What's so bad is I got a great smoking band, and we have a lot of fun. And it's just, we really want to go back to work. We really do. We're itching to.
Well, I think music fans are itching to go see some live music.
Can I throw one more thing in there?
Yeah, go for it.
We started doing this thing called Hats Off to the 80s and 90s to raise money for the Troy Gentry Foundation. Troy Gentry from Montgomery Gentry was killed in a helicopter crash 3 years ago, and his wife Angie started a kind of a charity that benefits cancer research and aid to military families and music education. So we've been doing a series of shows at this honky tonk called Cahoots, just outside of Nashville, pretty big place. And we've had a lot of 80s and 90s artists, and I'm doing another one on October the 29th. And we have from Restless Heart, we got Larry Stewart, Tim Rushlow from Little Texas, Richie McDonald from Lone Star, Mark Colley. If you remember Mark, he's just awesome.
Oh, yeah. Got some great records.
A guy named Ken Mellons.
Jukebox Junkie.
Exactly. Ty Herndon, Heidi Neufeld from Trick Pony. It's going to be and me, I get up and sing. We have good shows, man. We got a killer band. My band leader put together a band. So we're doing that, and they're all sold out, and we're raising a lot of money. And that's kind of been our outlet to be able to get in front of people and sing. And it's really good, man. Getting around all those folks it's really fun. So we're doing that again. If anybody's in Nashville on October, it's a Thursday night, October 29th. So we're doing those also. And so we're just trying to do something positive and put out positive vibrations and have fun at the same time.
All right. Good deal. Well, tell you what, we are, we went past our 30 minutes, but I don't think anybody's going to notice. I sure didn't.
Well, thanks, Michael. I really didn't mean to hog you that much. But
no problem at all. In fact, the funny thing is, I mean, there was other songs to things to talk about. So hopefully you'll find some time on your schedule in the future so we can come back and do it again and talk about all those songs.
I'd love to, man. And you have our information. If you ever need anything, if you ever need any help from me in any way, please don't hesitate to call, because I enjoy helping folks out. And if just let me know if you ever want to do it again. We'll figure out a way. And thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no problem.
I really appreciate. I hope your fans enjoy it, and I really did. I really appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, tell you what, on that note, folks, we're going to wrap this one up. T, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Music Night at the Majestic. The show will be posted on our Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and at musicnight.net. So everybody tune in. Until then, T, thank you very much. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you, man. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.